that is normally, there is that confidentiality. But I can assure you, because the Speaker and his deputy interact on many, many issues, that the Speaker is completely safe. Now, if there be a quarantine, which I do not know which quarantine you refer to, it is definitely not a medical quarantine. So, and especially now because there are issues to do with COVID and the rest, it should be clear that the Speaker is not under any quarantine whatsoever. Now, the Speaker, like every other occasion, has many, many things that he does and attends to, and he's attending to one of them. He is available, of course, as soon as he's actually available on call, especially from those people who are fairly, I do not want to go beyond there, but he's okay. There is no quarantine whatsoever. So it's nothing that you should. Let's proceed to. Yeah? By the way, did you read the Gazette notice? He's the one who signed it. He's actually on top of everything. Yeah, anything else that I hear you've read on press and others, I'm not going to get involved because I am not completely briefed on that. The brief that I have is that it's perfectly in order. So let's proceed. Proceed. We are moving the next motion, that is by the chairperson, Jailak. Have you called the order? Yes, you have. So proceed. In the same spirit that anything that is detailed in your report, you really don't need to repeat it, the members can read. You pick those salient areas, then we can be able to dispense with every activity that we have, because we only have today to deal with these matters that were set out by the Speaker.
Thank you, sir. Formally, let me set out the motion. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the motion that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs in its report on the consideration of a nominee for appointment as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, May 19th, 2021, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 166, Sub-Article 1A of the Constitution, Sections 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House approves the appointment of the Honorable Lady Justice Martha Karambu KOOME as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, the report of my committee is very exhaustive. It is self-explanatory. It is online. But I would like to mention at the outset that my committee was able to beat the deadlines that were previously given by the Speaker, 24th of May, by 10 days. Mr. Speaker, without delving into the major report, I would like to highlight, with your permission, some of the special attributes that make the Honorable Martha KOOME stand out uniquely as a first above equals, but with unmatched qualities for the office of Chief Justice. Mr. Speaker, if you allow me to remove my mask, to be able to. I'm very uncomfortable. Yes, I have kept distance. With that, as you can see. As you can see. You see, we have been very consistent in asking members. It's only that you are in an N95, so it is interfering with your. Yes. The voice, I can see you have some problem with creating that voice. Yes. But Mr. Speaker, indulge me. You need to wear the mask. You will be brief anyway, so put the mask for. And by the way,
the member seated next to you does not have a mask, and I might actually take very, very serious steps against her, because the two of you not in a mask is not good at all.
We take your advice.
Yes, so proceed.
Mr. Speaker, let me highlight some of the attributes that relate.
And by the way, we can hear you very well. Proceed, please.
The judge is a wife, mother, and has a solid family background, has very sound educational and professional background, wide experience in family law, children's rights, and human rights, has vision to revolutionize the judiciary and eliminate corruption in all forms and shades. She believes I can testify that she demonstrated that she believes in active constitutionalism and has distinguished herself in upholding the Constitution without influence of political, ethnical, or other parochial considerations. She is an able communicator who undertakes to improve the relationship between Parliament and the executive and the judiciary to ensure that budgetary allocations as a constitutional budgetary allocations to the judiciary as a constitutional requirement is met so that independence of the judiciary is sustained.
Honorable Babu Awino, I know you are a first-timer. Something called a phone is not allowed within the chamber because, you know, you are actually out of order, really. You need to apologize for, you know, if, in fact, without even hiding it, you are actually standing up to do that. Honorable Babu, what do you have to say before I take any punitive steps against you? Honorable Babu Ongili.
Sorry for that, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, if you have, it's not easy to get a sorry from you, so once that happens, let us proceed. Proceed.
Out of respect.
Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I may continue. The lady is able to somebody dialogue to solve the stalemate in the appointment of the 41 or so judges. She is able to ensure that the ratio in Wabora case, if you recall, Mr. Speaker, sir, the Wabora case, that the courts should, with a lot of circumspection and sparingly issue orders that may inhibit parliamentary processes and procedures. She would also, she confirms that she rose to unnecessarily create bad blood with the other arms of government. She has a vision to ensure wide access to justice, and this she demonstrated at a previous station in Kitare when she extended judicial services and justice to far-flung areas, Doktown, Londo, and Okcha. She was able to provide mobile facilities for justice. She created that facility. She is ready to avoid and curtail any activism and experimental, new and untried areas of jurisprudence. Particularly, Mr. Speaker, she is ready, able and willing to breathe life to Article 259 of our Constitution, which the relevant passage is that this Constitution shall be construed, interpreted in a manner that, most important, there are 4 considerations, but the last one is a crucial one, that in a manner that contributes to good governance. And on the same article, she says she is able to ensure that the law will always be speaking. We found that she is able to think outside the box and that she would not be living in a judicial island or utopia or ivory tower. She aspires to do substantial justice other than delving on technical formalities. She will critically think beyond Maraga advisory by invoking the principle that the law serves man and humanity and not the reverse. That the law is not static, must be actualized in a manner that contributes to good order. She will be seeking to retain, to reclaim lost glory for the judiciary in line with the principles enunciated, those professional colleagues and others that may know, the principles that were for a long time enunciated by the late Justice Chunalao Madan. That is the greatest Chief Justice Kenya has had so far. Then there was another judge, the principles laid by a judge in Uganda, 1966, Sir Udo Udoma, who in 1966, after Obote overthrew Kabaka, there appeared to be a vacuum in government. And that judge said that there can never be a vacuum in institutions of government, and that because Obote government appeared to be in control de facto, he made it the de jure government of Uganda. Then, lastly, there is Lord Denning, famous for what we call high trees, espousing on estoppel, and many other milestones. I mentioned this because these are her mentors. Mr. Speaker, the other salient matters that were noted by the committee are that there were some objections raised to her appointment made by Nelson Harvey, Keref Kaliva. These same objections had been raised before Judicial Service Commission. In that forum, they were dismissed. But in my committee, in its wisdom, found that these objections had no root, they were unmeritorious, unsubstantiated, vexatious, and malicious. The committee was also satisfied with the response by the nominee to the objections. all the necessary statutory reports and other necessary reports by KRA, intelligence, and other bodies were furnished to the committee. That Article 166 relating to appointment of the Chief Justice were met, and that all the statutory procedures preceding the approval had been duly met. Mr. Speaker, of judges. Mr. Speaker, then pursuant to Article 166 of the Constitution of Kenya, the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, starting under 216, suborder 5F, and 199 of the National Assembly, the committee unanimously recommends that, and by unanimous, Mr. Speaker, I say the committee is constituted by 19 members, 15 set, 4 were absent with apologies, and those 15 have appended their signature endorsing the approval of Lady Justice Mother Karabu KOOME for appointment by His Excellency the President to become the next Chief Justice of the Republic. Mr. Speaker, sir, lastly, I wish to express gratitude to all members of GLAC for the efficiency, devotion in dealing with this matter and rendering the report professionally and expeditiously. The committee also wish to express gratitude to the Office of the Clerk of the National Assembly and his staff for ensuring that all processes attendant to this nomination were professionally handled and timelines met. In the circumstances, therefore, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move and ask, request that my Vice Chief Justice, I think...
Well, there is a lot of merit in allowing other members to speak, even if you are the chair, because that makes it easier for you to canvass and have people support you. So if you take all the time between yourselves,
I am through.
It becomes a bit difficult for you to get support. So
Very
I'm
well.
saying as a member who's been here for a long time, and I also see a few members who have been, it is better when you are brief. You will be able to give other members an opportunity to contribute one way or the other and have something to say when you are responding, when you are replying. So you have asked that we give the Honorable TJ.
Mheshimiwa TJ Kajwang,
Yes.
my Vice Chair.
Honorable TJ, let's have you doing this.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker, it looks like the member for Kangema has very good words for me. He's praying for me. One of these days, I think he will vet me for the position that he seems to think that I merit. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, first of all, to express my appreciation to the House for nominating me into this committee. I've not had the opportunity since I was nominated. And I also want to thank the committee for expressing confidence that I can join them in the leadership of this committee. I promise nothing but lowliness of heart, humility, and that I will proceed according to the law. So, Speaker, sir, management of committees is like a soccer match. The coach knows who and who to field in the soccer match. And especially if he thinks that the soccer match could end into a post-penalty, there are chances that he will reshuffle people, including goalkeepers. So when you see that I am in the game, probably I am there to shoot
now, Mr.
the
Seconder,
match.
get back to the
Mr.
business.
Speaker, those are very relevant to this issue because all these issues are dovetailing around the issues concerning the committee. But I'm a seasoned member of this committee. I rise to second this motion for the approval of the Chief Justice. Mr. Speaker, sir, you should watch the video. Mr. Speaker, I want to get your attention. Mr. Speaker, sir, if I could just get a little attention from the Speaker's office. You should watch the video. Mr. Speaker, sir, I was making a comment. I'm making a very, and I think the leader of the majority should listen to me also. You should watch the video of how this committee conducted the vetting. It is how it should be done. And as the Deputy Speaker and the Chair of Liaison, I humbly suggest that this video should be clipped and sent to committees so that we have a proper way, a way with decorum, that approval hearings, selection hearings should be done in the Assembly. It is how it should be done, now, the quality of it all.
Now, who was the judge in this one? Maybe what you should be suggesting, Honorable TJ,
yes.
You have actually, excited the House to want to look at the video.
Yes.
Now, don't say anything more on the video. We definitely will be getting back to the committee on whether we think that they did a good job and therefore spread the gospel to the rest of the committee.
I'm sure you'll return a verdict.
I can assure you that we will want that video, and we will want to see what happened in this committee that even TJ
I'm
himself.
sure you'll return a verdict that this is how things should be done. But Mr. Speaker, sir, the approval is governed by Section 7 of the Parliamentary Approval Act. And the three issues that we look at is the procedure adopted by the interviewing panels, the constitutional and statutory suitability, and then the last one is a whole gamut called suitability in terms of experience and competence. The report is replete with specific findings on the procedure that was adopted, the constitutional and statutory competences that the Lady Chief Justice exhibited, and issues on suitability. And you will find that in every of those issues, we have made specific recommendations approving the competence of Lady Chief Justice Martha KOOME. But I don't want to spend time on that because that is in the report. I just want to speak to Lady Justice KOOME. I'm sure wherever she is, she would be delighted to hear the National Assembly speak to her. Because this is the last time she's in our hands doing the vetting and the approval. I would want Chief Justice, when she is in office, to quickly look at Article 254, which is reporting by commissions and independent office. Mr. Speaker, sir, you know that in this article, every end of financial year, the commission, including the judiciary, will report to the parliament, will submit a report to the president and to parliament. The president, the people before Chief Justice Martha KOOME took a rather condescending attitude to the National Assembly, arguing that they could not come to the jurisdiction of National Assembly to make reports. They would rather send the registrar. we would want to see a Chief Justice who knows, who respects institutions. And one day, she would write to you as the Speaker to allow her to come and commend herself to the National Assembly and to give what they call the state of the judiciary every financial year. That is what we want. We would not want a Chief Justice who think that leadership of institutions is a question of bravado. These issues were put to her, and she understands the views that have been expressed by the National Assembly. And I'm sure that she would look at Article 254 very closely, and we will want to have a relationship between the judiciary and the legislature in a mature manner which is beneficial to everyone. The question of independence of judiciary is a bothersome issue, Mr. Speaker. You know, nobody complains, nobody undermines the independence of judiciary. Just like the legislature is independent. But if you are not careful, this issue called independence of the judiciary could be a big elephant in the house. We must start talking about it. Because we are talking about excesses of the executive. We are talking sometimes about excesses in legislature. But it would seem that this issue about independence of judiciary is an issue that Kenyans need to look at. Otherwise, we can see a situation where we are getting into what is called judicial capture, or what is called judicial activism, all under the aegis of independence of judiciary. Mr. Speaker, sir, I hear sometimes people talk, and recently when there was a decision of the High Court, many people are saying, oh, don't criticize those judges. Don't say things about those judges. Why not? These are people who are exercising authority delegated to them. We as legislators, we are criticized all the time. And it is good. It is the only time that public are able to engage with us. And so, when they make judicial decisions the way they did, I see no reason why Kenyans cannot have learned response and learned engagement with the merits of the decisions that they make. But the Chief Justice, I think, now knows that the question of independence of judiciary, without assaulting on it, but there must be a clear balance, because we live in this country, all of us. You choose to be independent, but you still live in this country. And so, if you want to run a judiciary which goes by legalese rather than the practicals of how we live, then you now know that you are living in a utopia. Mr. Speaker, so I want to talk about gender. I can see my time running, but we are very few, Mr. Speaker. I don't know, maybe we should have more time now that we are few of us. I want to talk about gender. The Chief Justice very well knows that the office of the Chief Justice, as well as the office of the Deputy Chief Justice, are both of one's gender. Now they should know that with that in mind, for the time that they will be in that office, there is another gender that is watching them. How they are going to exercise themselves. Mr. Speaker, sir, a few minutes to talk about gender.
Honorable TJ, whether you are going to talk about gender or anything else, you see, Honorable TJ, it's the same argument I had with your chair, that you see yourselves and the committee really went through this issue. So you probably need less time yourselves. Now, I just want you to second.
Speaker, sir, you remember there were a few engagements we had with the Speaker.
One minute.
Yes, there is the other gender. There is the other gender that is watching. And we would want to be comfortable. For the first time, power is in the hands of two people. We want to see how they are going to exercise this power where both genders are concerned. We are very interested. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me sit down by also talking about ethnicity. I know my senior member for Kisumu East is going to talk about this, but I must speak about it. It is known, and everybody knows. No, I am seconding.
You second.
I have been in this house long enough to know how to second. If you are a first timer, you should know that I have an opportunity to say everything and anything about the report.
Well, within the time allocated. So you second now.
I second, Mr.
Thank
Speaker.
you very much, TJ. TJ, now that is, so let's proceed and do what we are supposed to do, which is to propose a question. And I proceed to propose a question, honorable members, which is that taking into consideration the finding of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs in its report on the consideration of the nominee for appointment as Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 19th May 2021, and pursuant to provisions of Article 166(1)(a) of the Constitution and Section 3 and Section 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House approves the appointment of Honorable Lady Justice Martha Karambu Koome as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. Subject, of course, to the notice that has been made. No, there is no issue of putting the question. Honorable members will be allowed to speak. What is it, the member for Mbeere North?
Yes, Honorable, thank you, Honorable Speaker. With your kind permission, Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 97(1), and notwithstanding the resolution of the House on February 10, 2021, limitation of debate on motions, including a special motion, this House orders that speaking time for each member be reduced from 10 minutes to 5 minutes. Mr. Speaker, my justification for the request for this motion, Mr. Speaker, is very simple. That this is a momentous occasion. It is a historical occasion, Honorable Speaker. You'll appreciate that the mover and the second have taken almost close to 1 hour or 45 minutes. Mr. Speaker, this is a special sitting. Time is not on our side. If we take the same amount of time, 10 minutes, and many of us want to speak in support of this motion, this is a lady who is assuming the office, Mr. Speaker, of the Chief Justice. And I have no doubt, going by the report that has been tabled by the mover, that if all of us, Mr. Speaker, were to take the entire 10 minutes, we will not give justice to this motion. And it is on that basis, Honorable Speaker, that I beg you, and I urge this House to find favor in my request that, Mr. Speaker, we limit ourselves to 5 minutes.
Don't spend more time. If you are now, honorable members, just to give you an overview, we have about 30 members who want to contribute. That should help you in making your decision one way or the other. But as far as I'm...
it used to be like a rubber stamp, but that day I was glad of the questions which the JLAC committee asked, especially Mheshimiwa from Kisumu, Mheshimiwa Alago Oloch, Senior Counsel, when he asked Justice Martha Koome whether it would prick her conscience to come from the same area of the judiciary headed by somebody from the same mountain area. And Justice Koome replied very well in the sense that she said where she comes from or where she was born, she did not choose to be born from there. And that is what should be the case in this country, Mr. Speaker. Like for myself, I come from Nordimenti, and nobody would expect me to be a member of Nordimenti, but that is the way we need to change our country. That is what we need to change our mindset, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when Justice Martha Koome talked about all the things she would do in the judiciary in 100 days, I believe she is a woman who is a woman of integrity, a lady who can do what she says. Because, Mr. Speaker, I have dealt with her when she was assisting us in one of the schools she's been through, Mbeo Primary. And, Mr. Speaker, she's a very good mentor. Let me tell, she gives her time and energy because she mentored the children of Mbeo Primary. And, Mr. Speaker, when we as a country are grappling with the two-thirds gender principle, and now we are getting the two-thirds gender principle in the third arm of government, I think that should be the best thing which can happen to this country, because that goes to show that we are serious with the gender principle. Mr. Speaker, the president of the Law Society, Mr. Harvey, Nelson Harvey, I think he's a perennial litigant, because he said that he put a stop that the CJ should not be the CJ, Lady Justice Martha Koome, because he said that she ruled in different ways. And then he said he was representing the Law Society. I think he was not representing the Law Society, he was just representing himself. And the Supreme Court has given its verdict on why the election should have gone on the 26th. He has held it against her. He held the IRAD supplies against the National Cereals Board. He held that decision against her. And I think it was all proven that through the Supreme Court that there was a mistake on Nelson Harvey's case. So, Mr. Speaker, when we are talking about Lady Justice Koome, she has said that she is willing to work with the other arms of government, not to work at the exclusion. The judiciary is one part of the government, and she is ready to talk to the other arms of government so that we can have the judges who have not been sworn in, who have got no integrity issues, that they will be sworn in once she speaks to His Excellency the President. And I think once we have got that, then we should, on the question of the elections, Mr. Speaker, Lady Justice said, yes, there will be elections, as everybody knows, that in August 2022 we'll have elections. So at that time, the matter of the mountain will not be there, because it will be anybody who gives himself or herself to be chosen as the head of the executive. Whoever wins will be the head of executive, and it doesn't have to be that it has to be somebody from the mountain or the other place. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that she has even promised that she will sort out the land issues which are a headache in the judiciary. She will sort out the judiciary fund as well, Mr. Speaker, and I think with those, when she does what she's promised to do, we should have a good judiciary which is listening, and she'll come give us an address of the nation, either from the judiciary side. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I urge members.
Very well, thank you. I will be putting the mic on for members I've mentioned so that we don't waste time. So even before you finish and you don't press it off. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance to also contribute in support of the nomination and approval by our committee of Justice Martha Koome to be the next Chief Justice. Mr. Speaker, this lady has what it takes. First of all, she has good experience, 3 years of experience, Mr. Speaker, and this experience is both in the bar and also in the bench. She has, before she became a judge, she had practiced law for 15 years, and in the bench, she has been a judge for cumulative 18 years. This is a person who has gone through the rank from the High Court to Court of Appeal, and eventually we hope to the apex of this court. Mr. Speaker, during the interview with the legal committee, Lady Koome exhibited integrity, and also she came out as a person who really supports family, a lot of family values, Mr. Speaker. And in the judiciary, in the bench, we need someone who supports the family, because you all know that the family is the institution which have bound the country together. Far from that, apart from our experience, she came out as someone who understands what a Chief Justice should do and should be all about. Someone who leads one arm of government, but at the same time as she maintained the independence of the judiciary, because she was very clear that given the chance, she will ensure that the judiciary is absolutely independent. And that's what we want. All Kenyans of goodwill want a very independent judiciary. But she also acknowledged that judiciary or judges do not live in a vacuum. In terms of giving services, they are interdependent, that the three arms of government must work together when giving services to the Kenyans. And she assured us that because she has good negotiation and diplomatic skills, if we approve her nomination and she's appointed eventually by the president, she's going to ensure that the judiciary is fully served by, first of all, negotiating on how to have the 41 judges, Mr. Speaker, appointed, so that the judiciary is not cogged down by the many and the numerous cases which are pending before both the Court of Appeal, the High Court, and generally in the whole judiciary. But she also acknowledged that judges and even the magistrates, when making their decision, they make errors. They are not infallible. They make mistakes. But what she said is that even when they make mistakes, appeal, so that instead of criticizing the judges or magistrates unnecessarily, use the mechanism provided by the law. The most important question was, is she a progressive? Is she going to introduce activism in the judiciary? But she was very clear that she's a progressive liberal, and she is going to ensure that all decisions the courts make are guided by the Constitution of Kenya. And that is the most important thing, that whatever decision the courts make in a term, ensure that they are guided by the Constitution of the Republic, of the 2010 Constitution, which should be the case, actually. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, we have to appreciate that she will be the first female Chief Justice. Kenya has had a number of about 23.
Time is over, so you have supported anyway. So we'll give Honorable Murugara, but Murugara, you will be next, because I have had some complaints that the ladies have not spoken, so I will interchange. So we will have the Honorable Member for Gilgil coming before you as you prepare. Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That's how it can work.
And for the indulgence. And Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I want to say that I support this nomination of Justice Martha Koome. It is indeed a historic moment to have one arm of the government in this country being led by a woman. We are proud, Mr. Speaker, and not only led by a woman, also deputized by one, as it is. And I want to assure Honorable TJ Kajwang that we have been watching you in the other arms of government. So this time, we say, sit back and take notes, because I have no doubt that Martha Koome will do us proud. And Mr. Speaker, I say that in cognizant and knowing very well that if a woman fails in whatever position, it is seen like the whole gender fails. It does not apply for men. If a man fails, it is seen as one. But when a woman does, so she also knows the weight on her shoulder. And Mr. Speaker, the issue of her professionalism has been demonstrated in the report. And I want to thank the committee because they did a proper job in terms of digging into her intellectual capacity, her legal judgment, and even her background, Mr. Speaker. And coming from a human rights defender background, Mr. Speaker, we expect that she will be progressive, as has been said in the report, and she joins other countries in Africa, including Mali, Senegal, Nigeria, and others that have had a Chief Justice who is a woman. So, Mr. Speaker, for all the girls in this country, for all the women in this country, we are proud of Justice Martha Koome. And I pray, Mr. Speaker, that one thing that we'll be looking forward for her to do is what she said. She has to jealously guard the independence of the judiciary, as has been said before, Mr. Speaker. And that is not to say that they exist in a vacuum. It must be interdependent, even with the other arms of government, but at the same time, ensuring that the independence is guarded. Mr. Speaker, I also hope that she will be at the forefront, because she has done it before in her career, to bringing justice closer to the people. In terms of the mobile clinics, I hope this time, Mr. Speaker, she will do an overhaul. She will ensure that the backlog in the courts of this country, Mr. Speaker, are reduced. Because we have seen people who have had court cases that drag for 20, 25 years. You even die before even knowing your verdict. So I hope that she will be at the forefront to ensure that she has improved that. And, Mr. Speaker, I want to note, even for people who have had matters in the courts recently, this COVID time, something I've noted from the judiciary is that if you have a matter in court and it is mentioned or it has a ruling, they actually send you a text message to tell you your matter was heard, to tell you your matter was listened to, and whatever happened to it. So I hope that this can also teach us, even as we embrace virtual participation, even in court, that she will put more resources in terms of ensuring there are enough magistrates and improving our ratio to ensure that this justice is actually commensurate to the number of people seeking these services. Mr. Speaker, I hope that the issue that she spoke to of operationalizing the judiciary fund is also something else I'll be looking forward to see. But more importantly, she must know that she's a trailblazer. She has set the pace, and we are watching. And not only the other agenda, even us who are her agenda are watching, because we know that she has opened doors and broken a glass ceiling to be the first Chief Justice of this nation. And I support, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to add my voice to support the report of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. And may I say from the outset that Lady Justice Martha Koome has experience that is unmatched. It all begins with her own career as a young advocate during the clamor for multi-party reforms in the country in the late 80s and early 90s, when we were actually under the Canon dictatorship. She was actually able to stand out and speak for Kenyans. Lady Justice Martha Koome has also worked well on human rights and rights of the underprivileged, especially in the family law. That makes her stand out as a person who is actually amiable to the citizens of Kenya. She has worked as a judge of the High Court and the Court of Appeal, and she has rendered exemplary service. This is a plus for her. However, as it appears we are going to approve her and she's going to be appointed, it is important I point out to the incoming Chief Justice that first and foremost, Lady Justice Martha Koome must guard zealously, jealously, and religiously the following, without any reservations. Number one is the independence of the judiciary. No doubt whatsoever. We know for sure in Kenya it is under attack and it must be protected. She must also guard the supremacy of the Constitution, because we have seen several persons trying to claw back on the gains we have made under the 2010 Constitution. And she's going to be ranked, because Kenyans have ranked former Chief Justice Mutunga, they have ranked former Chief Justice Maraga. She is now on the ranking list, and we will be looking upon her to ensure that this Constitution is not mutilated, it is not violated, and it's not raped. It's a Constitution that must be safeguarded. She will also have to guard and protect the rule of law in the country, the dignity of the courts, because we have seen court orders being disobeyed left, right, and center. Sincerely, no country, a democracy that purports to be under the rule of law would ever work with the disobedience of court orders. Lady Justice Martha Koome, Kenyans are watching you. They are saying we must be protected. And finally, she must enforce the law to the letter. No question of it in any other way. Just like that little boy outside our courts carrying a fish who is naked. Justice is nothing but the naked truth. We are looking upon the new Chief Justice to deliver. I support.
Professor Aduol.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, from the onset, I'd like to thank the committee and to also indeed acknowledge that not only listening to what they indicated and what is in the report, I take this opportunity to indicate my support, Honorable Speaker, because we stand at a historic moment in our country, Honorable Speaker. We are aware that the Honorable Lady Justice would be the third Chief Justice in our country. And Honorable Speaker, I would like, as I support, to indicate that what is coming out clearly, Honorable Speaker, is that we find that leadership, whether it is at the judiciary or any other area, is gender neutral. It seeks to look at competence. We seek to look for a foundation that would take our country to the level that we would like. And so, Honorable Speaker, as I support the committee and indeed confirm that the Honorable Lady Chief Justice Martha Koome is suitable, I do it by looking really at the question that what we are looking at is a historic moment from the point of view that we do have a lady that would be coming in for the first time. But, Honorable Speaker, I use it to celebrate the demonstration that leadership, that competence, that indeed what it is that we need to help us sustain the forward-looking, significant progress that we have seen in the judiciary will indeed be fulfilled. Honorable Speaker, I conclude by saying that it has also been said that women and men do lead differently. And I know the Honorable and my senior, TJ Kajwang, did indicate that the other gender will be watching. I conclude by indicating that there is a difference in terms of the way women and men lead. And the women, Honorable Speaker, it has been proven, tend to listen a lot more. They tend to engage, and they tend to be much more ready to negotiate and to ensure that everybody is taken on board. And so I am glad that as we look at the fear that sometimes we have of excesses, we shall find in the Honorable Lady Justice Martha Koome opportunity for interdependence, opportunity for negotiation. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support.
You actually did it in exactly 2.5 minutes. Honorable Maure, maybe that is to tell us actually how you would be leading.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to also support the nominee, the Honorable Lady Justice Martha Koome, to be the next Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. And as the country is celebrating the breaking of the glass ceiling by a woman, the Meru community as well, we are being taught a lesson that since independence, there is no time the Merus have gone to a ballot box in a general election and actually elected a woman. Now, this will be an eye-opener in the sense that when the Lady Justice Koome showed up for nomination at the JSC, nobody saw a woman. What people saw was a serious judge whose temperament, when you looked at her, you couldn't be able to discern anything that you would describe as feminine, anything that you would belittle because she is a woman, but you saw a very firm answers from her. And, Mr. Speaker, from those of us who are familiar with the conduct of judges, a judge, you are not supposed to read the mood of a judge. You are not supposed to predict the decision a judge will make, because that one is only left to those people we usually call the judicial activists. And, Mr. Speaker, in judicial activism, what they do is they legislate from the bench. From where they are seated, they would be able to pass laws which have not been taken to them for interpretation. So, Mr. Speaker, our judiciary is under its own attack. It needs to cleanse itself, and it needs to have an administrator. Even though we are asking for their independence, they need to have a thorough searching of the judiciary. So, Mr. Speaker, what we need, the judges that we are supporting to lead a separate arm of government the independence is not absolute. It's supposed to be controlled within that judiciary so that we don't have issues that can come out and expose the activism in that judiciary. So, in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I would like to support the integrity, the wisdom that has been displayed by this nominee, and also say that in our area of Mount Kenya East, at the national leadership now, we are really represented. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Paris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I stand here as a duly elected woman leader, and I want to say that I am proud of the fact that one of the arms of government, the judiciary, will soon be headed by a woman. It is no mean feat. I mean, at the end of the day, we have strived as women to get our space in society, in political space, in private practice spaces, as well as just knowing that when you look at us, we cannot deny the fact that we're women, and we want to have our space knowing that we actually are 50% of the population. Martha Koome, Lady Justice Martha Koome, is a woman, and let us not shy away from embracing her as a woman and saying that today we are proud that we have her as the nominee for Chief Justice. And the reason I say that is because I see a lot of the men, when they're standing up to speak, they're trying to say she's just a good leader. Yes, she's an amazing leader. But we cannot stop underlining the fact that she is a woman. And we have to celebrate that, not just for her, but for the many women in this country, the girl child, and the women that aspire to be leaders. What I like about Martha Koome, because I've actually been to a few of the forums that she held when she was heading the task force for children, is the fact that she's very humble, extremely humble. She has integrity, she is grounded, she's compassionate. I recall an interview where she said, "Children have no voices, so I choose to speak for them."
You will simply be going, we will be getting your mic as soon as the other colleague finishes. So, Honorable Duale, Honorable Shamala, Honorable Mutai, Honorable Wangwe, if you want to speak at that point, Honorable Mwamkale, Kanoti. Those are 5. So let's start in that manner.
Honorable Speaker, I rise to support the report of the committee on the vetting of the nominee for the position of Chief Justice. Honorable Speaker, the nominee in question is one who is known for her vast experience in the legal profession, brilliance and acumen in her career as a judicial officer. And now she joins she now goes to the books of history of this country as having been the first female Chief Justice. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to professionalism, capacity, ability and experience as required by the Public Appointment and Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, there is no one who can object that the nominee ticks and fits in the box very well. However, Mr. Speaker, allow me to say that the job of a Chief Justice is not just that requires one to fit the box or to tick the box. It is one which calls for one to abide by the dictates of Article 159 of the Constitution on judicial authority. And Mr. Speaker, judicial authority is the dictate of Article 159, and it's derived from the people. So judicial authority in this sense, we expect Honorable Lady Justice Koome to drive that authority from the people of Kenya. The citizens of our country are therefore the real employers of Chief Justice Martha Koome, if she gets a job. I do hope, Mr. Speaker, and I had the privilege to sit in this chamber when a man I have a lot of respect for, Dr. William Mutunga, was brought to this house. I had been here when David Maraga, a man also I have a lot of respect for, and now under the new constitution, Lady Justice Koome. In executing her duties, she must be, and at all times, fidelity to the law and the people of Kenya, and that is what should guide her. It is not the executive, it's not this House, or indeed any other public body that should move her. It is her duty to the people of Kenya. It's her duty to uphold in accordance with Article 159. Honorable Speaker, the reason I raise this matter is because concerns against this nominee were raised by the Law Society of Kenya on what was termed as misapprehension or skating around the concern of her acting on the direction of the executive, a fact that was evident. Honorable Speaker, this is a very serious matter, and I actually do hope that the nominee shall not be on the beck and call of the executive, and also is ready to do whatever she is told to do. Do judicial authority be exercised under the guidance of any other arm of government? Mr. Speaker, the principle set out in Article 159.3, which includes justice, shall be done to all, irrespective of their status. Mr. Speaker, finally, I want her to read and maybe listen to what Thomas Jefferson, the founding father of the United States and who served as the third president of the US, said on matters. Jefferson said, on matters of style, swim with the current. On matters of principle, stand like a rock, like Justice Odunga, Justice Joel, Justice Madeka, Justice Chacha Mwita, and Justice Nga. And this House must respect the judiciary. As a minority, when the rubber hits the road, the people who will save this country, the people who will follow the Constitution as both in spirit and letter, is the arm of the judiciary. Independence of the judiciary, Mr. Speaker, she is not from Meru. She is not from Mount Kenya East. She is the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. And I hope she will follow what Honorable Willie Mutunga stood for, what Honorable Justice David Maraga stood for, and we are watching her as the people of Kenya.
Thank you. You nowadays quote too much of these very serious philosophers. Proceed, Honorable Mutai.
My sister Shamala can go ahead.
Actually, in that order, yes, I'm sorry.
Actually, that order, I'm not jumping.
Yes, you are right.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to support the recommendations and the report of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee for that the Honorable Lady Justice Martha Koome do be approved by this august House. Mr. Speaker, there are three things that stood out for me when it came to this particular nominee. She demonstrated, first and foremost, her experience and her passion for children and family. And on that, I want to agree with the Honorable If we get it right at that level, we will get it right at all levels. The second issue that stood out for me was the unpackaging of the role as of the Chief Justice, if she was to be approved by this House. Mr. Speaker, sir, Lady Justice Martha Koome believes that the Constitution of Kenya, amongst other things, must be people-centered in terms of delivery. And on this note, I want to talk about the issue of delivery in the context of corruption. Corruption is discussed within the legislature, corruption is discussed and recognized in the executive, but not in the judiciary. I pray that should Lady Justice Martha Koome be approved by this House, that she will indeed address the issue of corruption in the judiciary, because we must call it as it is, and we recognize that even the judiciary has its cartels. It is not just in the executive or in the legislature. Mr.
She qualifies. Is a lady who has over 33 years experience in the legal profession, 15 years in the bench. She has intellectual capacity. She has a sound legal judgment. Mr. Speaker, this is a lady who has done a lot of work in creating legal jurisprudence. And one in mind, Mr. Speaker, which the committee observed, was in one civil appeal case of 309 of 2015, where I served with Justice Nambuye and Sichale, rendered a decision, Mr. Speaker, that created what is the current now vicarious liability on TSC, that TSC cannot run away from their responsibility to create a safe learning environment for our children against defilement or violence. Mr. Speaker, this is a lady who is committed to ensuring that Kenya moves forward and goes on the right direction. I was also touched, Mr. Speaker, on her conduct and demeanor where she was faced with memorandum that were against her. She did not shy away from facing that and setting the record straight, Mr. Speaker. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I must commend her and laud her on one issue that stands out. Currently, Mr. Speaker, there is an issue of the BBI decision by the High Court, and there is an appeal. When she appeared before the committee, Mr. Speaker, she was clear in her thought and mind that criticisms against judges has the net effect of lowering the dignity of the court. And that is the reason there are appellate courts in our judicial system. Mr. Speaker, that was a statement, and I'm proud of this lady. Our colleague here, Rebo Mili, knows this is one of the ladies that did marvelous work when she was at FIDA. At one point, she was the chairperson of FIDA. It's at that time, Mr. Speaker, when us men were jittery when we heard the word FIDA. But she did not do things against us. Instead, she was very fair. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, in Justice Martha Koome, we have a safe pair of hands that will take Kenya to the next level. Thank you.
Okay. So, Honorable Mwamkale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for according me time to contribute to this. Mr. Speaker, I'm a member of this committee, and I had an opportunity of hearing Lady Justice Koome presenting herself to this committee. Mr. Speaker, I do rise to for approval of this report. When she appeared before our committee, Lady Justice Koome confirmed to the committee that she was going to be guided by the Constitution of Kenya, and she will not take instructions from any other place other than the Constitution of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, it also came out in her vision that she would protect the rights of citizens as enshrined in Chapter 4 of the 2010 Constitution. And she did inform us that she was part and parcel of this chapter. She played a big role when she was at FIDA, and that she would defend the Constitution at all costs. However, Mr. Speaker, it is, as it has been mentioned, when questions were put to her, she confirmed to us and to the Republic that she believes that judges are not saints. She said it clearly that judges are not saints. They sometimes misinterpret the law, and that when law is misinterpreted, it is normally addressed in the appeals. She said she believed that any wrongdoing of a judge can be rectified in an appeal. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a lady who has her vision well cut. Mr. Speaker, by approving by approving the appointment of Lady Justice KOOME, we will be taking, as a country, we will be taking the gender principle at the higher level, because it will not only be effected in the National Assembly or wherever else, but at the three arms of government. For once, we will have one arm of the government being led by a lady. And I think as a republic, we will have put our face in the global map as far as gender principle is concerned. So, Mr. Speaker, I do urge the House to approve this lady, because even the way she committed herself to relate well, she is going to even unlock the impasse of the 41 judges who have been on the waiting list.
Okay, Honorable Rema. And by the way, you seem to be having a problem with your mic, so you might have to come here in front. Oh yes, you are okay now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to also add my voice. From the onset, Mr. Speaker, I rise with a lot of pride and honor to support the nomination of a very accomplished lady judge, a woman, a mother, and a woman we are all so proud of. Mr. Speaker, for the time she was being vetted both by GSC and Parliamentary JLAC Committee, I took a lot of time to follow the interview. One of the reasons why I'm supporting, besides being a woman, is because of how she really performed in the interview. Therefore, I want to thank both the JLAC and the GSC Commission for doing an excellent job. Mr. Speaker, all through, she was composed, focused, and really understood the subject matter. Mr. Speaker, she is indeed a breath of fresh air in the leadership of judiciary. Mr. Speaker, I had an opportunity to do a lot of research on her because I really wanted to be sure of the person we are getting to this very important institution, which so happened to be the hope of the ordinary citizen. Mr. Speaker, I came across a lot of good achievements. Besides heading the women movement, her record on children and gender rights, as well as her role in drafting Kenya's 2010 Constitution, in particular the Bill of Rights, stood out. Mr. Speaker, last year, Justice KOOME was a runner-up for the UN's Kenyan's Person of the Year Award for her advocacy on the rights of children. Mr. Speaker, she is also a known firebrand reformer, for she was amongst the lawyers involved in the clamor in the 1980s to repeal Section 2A of the Constitution of Kenya, which made the country a one-party rule then. Therefore, we all are for the multi-party democracy we are enjoying. Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of things, good things that were said about her, and
There was Justice GBM Kariuki, the Mirugi Kariuki, Rachel Mamo, Martha Karua, Samba Kitonga, and Kamau Kuria. Mr. Speaker, we were able to get through our agenda, and we became the darling of the Kenyans. In my view, that puts Justice Karua in a better state to understand the needs of Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, after the collapse of the East African community, Kenyans in the LSK Council then, including myself, traveled in Uganda, Tanganyika, and Zanzibar to form what is now called the East African Law Society. We were able to do this together with Justice KOOME and the others, and finally, a treaty was signed by our presidents that created what is now called the East African Community. Mr. Speaker, There's a matter that we cannot afford to take under the carpet anymore, and Kenyans are concerned. We are going to approve Justice Martha Koome as the next Chief Justice of this country, but the fact that when that is done, we are going to end up with a situation where the head of the judiciary, the head of the legislature, and the head of the executive will all be coming from one region known as the mountain. Mr. Speaker, that's a matter that I raised in the committee. But I'm satisfied that Justice Martha Koome was able to convince us that the fact that she comes from the mountain should not be a worry for Kenyans. And personally, I'm satisfied that Justice Martha Koome will be our next Chief Justice. With that, Mr. Speaker, I support the motion.
Thank you, Leader Majority. Then I'll give a few members. I can see they're almost completing it.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for this opportunity to support this motion and to thank the committee for a splendid job. As the last speaker has just said, I think it's probably one of the best practices in terms of how to vet officers, as opposed to grilling and attempting to redo the interview which was done elsewhere. And I think this is just highlighting the issues and clarifying for purposes of this public participation. The Swahili have a saying, if I allow me to quote, chema cha jiuza, kibaya cha jitembeza. And from what you can hear, Honourable Speaker, is the gracious lady with her 33 years of experience, spanning all disciplines, from family law, private practice, pro bono acts, environment, in the High Court, Court of Appeal. It's cross-cutting that she has managed to sell herself to the Kenyan people and to the committee. And hence, what we are basically doing here is repeating ourselves in just increasing the accolades. And we believe she will do a good job, she has promised. I just want to take on two commitments that she has made to the committee and to Kenyans through this House. And that's about leaving her true to her calling as a Chief Justice, as a jurist, in terms of independence, non-partisanship, and non-political stance, and also in the support to the war against graft. Because the war against graft, it's not limited to the executive. It goes across all institutions. And if you allow the war on graft at the judiciary, it does not matter who the head is. Nobody will ever get justice. So if it starts there and then cuts across all the institutions, then people will know that it's very expensive to get yourself involved in corruption. I think the other thing I'm happy about is her commitment for non-interference with other institutions, with the other arms of government. Honourable Speaker, you are aware we have been gagged here before. We've been told we cannot process bills. And last year we spent a lot of time because we had been told we cannot do bills. Even some bills that we had passed, like an appropriation bill, a supplementary bill, were being told they are illegal, which is obviously something that cannot be enforced because you tell people to return the money that was spent on an appropriation bill. So it's some excesses that were made. And I do hope that she will bring some order to the judiciary from that perspective. And even remove these things of telling Parliament that you cannot pass something, or you must pass something in a certain way, which is what I saw in the ruling that was done last week, kind of trying to even define how we should do the referendum law. Yet, we are not supposed to be receiving that kind of situation. Honourable Speaker, the founders of this doctrine of checks and balances, particularly James Madison, was very clear. It's not about having checks and balances, it's ensuring that of the arms of government, there will be adequate checks to ensure none of those arms is so strong to stifle the others from making decision or operation. So it's not just about creating checks and all those things, but it's like there should be checks within the law and within the institution so that the executive does not muzzle the judiciary, which we could do by refusing to give money. Our parliament does not muzzle the judiciary on executive, which we could do by refusing to give them money. And similarly, they cannot muzzle us by telling us there are things we can do or by rendering every law coming from parliament to be unconstitutional, even on very flimsy ground. I think those are the kind of things that we need to get some sober-minded person, and I hope that Lady Justice Mother Koome would take it as part of continuing the reform that was started by Justice Mutunga, the reforms by Justice Maraga, are now consolidated for the common good, so that it's not people just trying to get even, revisiting one another, but now looking at the Kenyan people and where the judiciary should be, not just for Kenya, but for the region, because the whole region is probably also looking at us, and I believe that we can learn from others and teach others in terms of the protection for human rights and political rights, as well as the economic rights of our people. Honorable Speaker, like I said, I want to congratulate Honorable Mother Koome for, first of all, being the first nominee of the female gender coming for this position, and to wish her the very best. And to just say that we can only wish her well. It's a very tumultuous time, lots of challenges, but we also believe that the 33 years of her experience should count for something in terms of sorting out the issues in the judiciary and giving the judiciary a face, giving the judiciary, the people the confidence that they can have faith in the judiciary. So we don't go politically next year into the same issues we had in the past, when people lacking faith in the judiciary ended up looking for judiciary for justice on parallel systems. And I believe, Honorable Speaker, that we provide her with our support from a House as she does that exercise. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to support.
Okay, Honorable Ishungwa, and then followed by Honorable Millie Odhiambo. But what is it, Honorable Keter?
Thank you.
Just a minute, what is it? Honorable Keter, what is it? What is your point of order, Honorable Keter?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise on standing order number 95-1.
Just proceed, Honorable Keter. Order members, Honorable Keter has the floor.
That may the mover be called to reply.
Okay, I've heard you. Now, honorable members, this is how we'll proceed. I had mentioned that I'm giving Honorable Ishungwa, you will speak. Then Honorable Millie Odhiambo. Then I'll put the question on that particular bit. If it is acceptable, that is fine. If it is not, it is you to make decision. And by the way, honorable members, sometimes honorable members just walk in.
You have just walked in,
and they want to be heard. Yeah? So let's wait. Honorable Ishungwa, without digressing, just speak to this matter. You have.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, a lot of accolades have been spoken of the CJ nominee, Lady Justice Mother Koome. And I want to join other members and Kenyans in congratulating her on her nomination and her selection by the JSC to serve as the first Lady Justice as Chief Justice in the Republic of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, with all the accolades also, we did see petitions from the President of the Law Society of Kenya, a petition that touched on a matter that relates to one of us here, the Erad Supplies Company, that was presided over by Justice Mother Koome. And there's also, of course, the sticky matter of the Knight ruling of the Court of Appeal in 2017, Honorable Speaker. And these are issues, Honorable Speaker, that may put question to her standing as a judicial officer. But I want to believe that the committee and the JSC considered all those matters and made an informed decision as they settled on Lady Justice Koome. Honorable Speaker, I just want to speak to Lady Justice Mother Koome and ask her, Honorable Speaker, that it now does not matter how the JSC and how even this House settled on her and approved her position as CJ. What counts now, Honorable Speaker, is what she will do as the first lady Chief Justice in the Republic of Kenya. Whether she will allow the accolades that have been poured on her career, her illustrious career as a judicial officer, to be her guiding light, or whether it is the small spots, be it of ERAD, be it of the 2017 night ruling, Honorable Speaker, that will define her career. I want to speak to Lady Justice Martha Koome and ask her to jealously guard the independence of the judiciary. She must protect the judicial officers, Honorable Speaker, from the intimidation we have seen from the likes of Raphael Tuju of the Jubilee Party, threatening judicial officers that they may lose their security, Honorable Speaker, if they take certain decisions. Honorable Speaker, I pray that CJ nominee Martha Koome will not preside over another night sitting out of intimidation over the BBI matter or any other matters in the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Speaker. I want to speak to her and tell her that the issue of interdependence of the three arms of government, Honorable Speaker, does not mean that she or the judiciary is dependent on the executive or indeed this legislature. She must carry on her work and do the right thing in pursuit of justice, Honorable Speaker. I want to beg our Chief Justice nominee, Honorable Speaker, not only to defend the independence of the judiciary, but also to jealously defend and protect judicial officers against intimidation so that they do what is right and what serves justice to Kenyans. Let me finish, Honorable Speaker, by just asking Lady Justice Martha Koome, we do not expect you, Lady Justice, to do any favors to anybody, but just to do the right thing and serve justice to all Kenyans, irrespective of who they are, what office they hold, and dare not be intimidated by the likes of Tuju or all the other busybodies that you see trying to intimidate people in this country. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I pray and hope that she will stand firm to defend justice and the rule of law and constitutionalism in this country.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I support the nomination of Honorable Lady Justice Martha Koome. And Mr. Speaker, especially given that she's the first woman to be given this position, it is actually a tragedy that in this age and time, we are still talking of first woman this and first woman that. That is something that we should have left almost 30 years ago. And I'm hoping, Mr. Speaker, that we will not then hound the deputy out of the office because she's a woman. Because we know, if you look at this country, there are very many men in the position of legal counsel of FIDA. And Mr. Speaker, they gave me a flower after that. Of course, I got that position. And when the time came for me to leave that office, I remember she actually persuaded me and added my salary so that I could not leave. Unfortunately, my time had come. I had to leave. And when I went there, I came from a background of working as a litigation counsel, as a state counsel in the office of the Attorney General. So I had no knowledge of family law. Martha Koome was actually the expert in the entire country on issues of family law. And she taught me. She was the person I went to all the time when I wanted to understand issues of family law. And I became an expert courtesy of Honorable Lady Justice Martha Koome. Very focused, very targeted, and very clear about things she stands on. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that she's also very passionate about things I'm passionate about. She's passionate about women's rights, and she's passionate about children's rights. And I've worked with her both nationally and internationally on those issues. And I can vouch for her competence. Mr. Speaker, the English say, whoever rocks the cradle rules the world. And even in the Bible, Jesus says, suffer the little ones to come unto me, and gives blessings to those who actually support children. Mr. Speaker, she discovered the secret, and she rocked the cradle, and she's ruling the world. I am the only one, Mr. Speaker, who is remaining, and I believe after Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga becomes president, I will be the first woman president after Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, and I'm speaking from my mouth to God's ear. Mr. Speaker, she talked about the faith of her mother. May she continue with that faith of her mother even as she serves Kenyans. And Mr. Speaker, may it help her so that she doesn't succumb to the maladies that bedevil Kenya, issues of ethnicity and state capture. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that even as I'm hearing people talk about independence, independence does not mean you don't criticize. I support, and Mr. Speaker, I respect some of the judges very greatly, including Honorable Joe Gugi. I respect immensely, but I disagree with them on some of the issues that they raised, especially on the issue of constitutional structure. And I will get an opportunity to talk to that from an intellectual perspective. That does not mean I do not respect. I respect, but I disagree respectfully. And I encourage others, when you disagree with them, please do so respectfully, so that we respect both the three arms of government, even when we disagree.
Okay. Honorable Sabula? No, but anyway, since I want to dispense with the Honorable... Anyway, finish Honorable Sabula briefly, then I dispense with the...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I also rise to support this.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm humbled, Mr. Speaker, and I have really nothing useful that I can add to the support that has been given to the motion. And the only one thing I would like to add is that I'm assured and we're assured by Justice KOOME.
Sorry, Mover. In the meantime, I ask that I be given the full number of members because I have to be extremely sure. I can see you are more than 50 in the House, but let me also know the ones who are in other holding areas. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I have had a minute, and the only thing I was adding is that Justice KOOME has assured the committee that she will be judging judges. Judging judges. I want to array fears by Ichungwa. I don't need Andre answer anything, because all the matters that he raised are extraneous. Tuju is not a member of the committee. We are not considering Tuju or anybody else. If you allow me, Mr. Speaker, I could donate a minute. Very well.
It is when just to be clear, so that you don't feel that I have. Whenever there is a motion to cut debate, there will be no reason to donate.
Very well. Yeah. Then there is nothing that I can usefully add more than the accolades and the sentiments that have been expressed by the members, and I thank them. I thank my committee again for the support and the efficiency in which they handled the approval of Justice KOOME.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Having moved, honorable members,
I support.
Having confirmed, because I've confirmed that within the chamber we have 50 members, more than 50